In a galaxy where light and darkness clash, two names stand above all: Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader, a son who seeks truth, and a father who hides behind the mask of the dark side. Their journey is not just a fight between Jedi and Sith, but a battle of destiny, blood, and redemption. Stay with us till the end, because this is the ultimate story of love, betrayal, and the power of hope. Part 1. The prophecy of balance. Long before the battles between Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader, the galaxy was shaped by a prophecy. The Jedi Order, guardians of peace for centuries, believed in the words that spoke of a chosen one, someone destined to bring balance to the Force. But balance was a mystery. Did it mean the destruction of the Sith, or something far greater? The answer seemed to lie in a boy from a desert planet. Anakin Skywalker, born without a father, carried within him a power unlike anything the Jedi had ever seen. Discovered on Tatooine by Qui-Gon Jinn, the Jedi Master believed with all his heart that this boy was the one foretold in ancient texts. Is he not the chosen one? Qui-Gon questioned. The Council, however, was cautious. Yoda and Mace Windu looked at the boy and saw not only strength but also danger. His heart carried fear of loss, fear of pain, fear of failure. And fear, as Yoda warned, was the first step toward the dark side. Still, despite their doubts, they allowed him to be trained as a Jedi. But destiny is not always kind. Even in his earliest days, Anakin's path was shadowed. His connection to the Force was strong, yet the same bond that made him powerful also made him vulnerable. The prophecy that once promised hope would soon twist into tragedy. The galaxy had gained a hero, but hidden within that hero was the seed of a Dark Lord. Part 2. The rise of Anakin Skywalker. From the very moment Anakin Skywalker stepped into the halls of the Jedi Temple, he was different. Unlike the other younglings who had been trained since infancy, Anakin carried memories of slavery, of struggle, and of love for his mother, Shmi Skywalker. Those attachments, forbidden by the Jedi Code, shaped him deeply. Yet beneath his fears and emotions, his potential was undeniable. His mastery over the Force grew rapidly, and his skill with a lightsaber surpassed even the most talented Padawans. Obi-Wan Kenobi, who had promised Qui-Gon Jinn to train Anakin after his death, took on the responsibility with both pride and worry. Obi-Wan loved him as a brother, but he could see the fire that burned inside him. Sometimes that fire glowed with hope and compassion. Other times it flickered dangerously with anger and frustration. He is gifted, yes, but will he ever learn patience? Obi-Wan often wondered. As the Republic began to crumble under political corruption, Anakin found himself not only in the heart of battles, but also in the heart of the galaxy's shifting power. Chancellor Palpatine, a figure of kindness on the outside, took great interest in him. Where the Jedi saw his flaws, Palpatine saw opportunity. You are destined for greatness, Anakin. Far greater than the Jedi will ever allow you to be, greater than Palpatine whispered, slowly planting seeds of doubt. The Clone Wars broke out, and Anakin quickly became a hero. His daring strategies, his fearlessness in battle, and his bond with the soldiers made him a legend among the troops. To many, he was not just a Jedi, he was the embodiment of hope. Yet in every victory there was also a shadow. Anakin's impatience with the Jedi Council grew stronger. He felt they were holding him back, refusing to acknowledge his full power. But it wasn't only the war or politics that shaped him. Anakin's secret marriage to Padma Amidala, the senator of Naboo, tied him to a forbidden love. In her, he found peace, comfort, and purpose. But in her, he also found fear, the fear of losing her, just as he had lost his mother. Nightmares of her death haunted him, visions so vivid they tore at his soul. And when Anakin looked at the Jedi Council, he saw rules that demanded sacrifice of love and attachment. When he looked at Palpatine, he saw promises of strength and knowledge, secrets that could save the ones he loved. That was the beginning of his fall. The boy who was supposed to bring balance to the Force was now standing on the edge of light and darkness. The galaxy still saw him as a hero. The Jedi still called him their chosen one. But deep within Anakin Skywalker's heart, the shadow of Darth Vader had already begun to awaken. Part 3. The birth of the Empire. The Clone Wars raged across the galaxy, and Anakin Skywalker rose higher than ever before. He was not just a Jedi Knight now, he was a war hero, a commander whose name inspired loyalty and fear in equal measure. Clones followed him without hesitation. Civilians praised him as the defender of the Republic. Even among the Jedi, whispers began to spread. Perhaps he truly was the chosen one. Yet, behind the curtain of glory, shadows were moving. Chancellor Palpatine's influence grew stronger with each passing day. He positioned himself as Anakin's mentor, someone who truly understood him. While the Jedi Council gave him lectures about patience and control, Palpatine offered him validation. The Jedi are holding you back, my boy. They fear your power. But I see your true potential, Palpatine would say, his voice dripping with manipulation. At the same time, the Council's mistrust deepened. They saw Palpatine's rise to absolute authority with suspicion, but instead of guiding Anakin with trust, they placed him in impossible positions. They asked him to spy on the Chancellor, his closest friend and father figure. To Anakin, this felt like betrayal. How can they expect loyalty when they show me none? He thought in anger. The Jedi had become, in his eyes, hypocrites chained by their own arrogance. Then came the visions, dark, terrifying dreams of Padme Amidala, his wife, dying in childbirth. These dreams shook him to his core. He remembered his mother's death, the helplessness he had felt, and now he could not bear to lose the woman he loved. Every path seemed to lead to tragedy, and in this moment of fear, Palpatine revealed his ultimate truth. He was not merely a politician, but a Sith Lord, Darth Sidious, who had orchestrated the war from the very beginning. Anakin was horrified at first. A Sith? His sworn enemy? The one the Jedi had fought for generations, was sitting at the very heart of the Republic. But Sidious played his final card. Only through the dark side can you learn to prevent death. Together we can save Padme? These words ignited Anakin's deepest desire. To save her, he was willing to do anything. Torn between loyalty to the Jedi and his fear of losing Padme, Anakin made his choice. When Mace Windu confronted Palpatine and moved to kill him, Anakin intervened. His lightsaber struck down the Jedi Master, sealing his fate forever. In that single moment, the Chosen One was lost and Darth Vader was born. He knelt before Sidious, trembling yet resolute. "What have I done?" he whispered, but the answer was already clear. Sidious placed a hand upon him and declared, "Rise, Lord Vader." From that night, the Republic was dead. The Jedi were hunted in the Great Purge, the Empire rose in its place, and at its heart stood a broken man in black armor, his name echoing in fear across the stars, Darth Vader. The boy who was meant to bring balance had become the very darkness he was destined to destroy. Part 4. The hope in exile. The galaxy had fallen into darkness. The Republic was gone, replaced by the iron fist of the Galactic Empire. Star systems trembled under the shadow of Darth Vader, who carried out his master's will without mercy. Once a hero of the people, Anakin Skywalker was now lost, buried beneath black armor and a new identity. His name was no longer spoken with admiration, it was whispered in fear. Yet even in darkness, the Force never allows hope to be fully extinguished. Hidden away, two children carried the secret bloodline of Anakin Skywalker. Padme Amidala had died, just as Anakin's visions foretold, but before her death she gave birth to twins, Luke and Leia. To protect them from Vader and Sidious, they were separated at birth. Leia was adopted by Senator Bail Organa and raised as a princess of Alderaan. Luke was taken to the barren world of Tatooine, placed under the care of his uncle Owen and Aunt Beru Lars. Obi-Wan Kenobi, devastated by the fall of his brother and friend, chose to remain on Tatooine in secret. His mission was not to fight, not to lead armies, but to watch over Luke, the boy who might one day bring back the balance that Anakin had destroyed. From the shadows, Obi-Wan became a hermit, known only as Old Ben. Yet, within his exile, he carried unbearable guilt. I failed him, I failed Anakin, and I failed the galaxy greater than he thought, night after night. Meanwhile, the galaxy groaned under the rule of the Empire. Planets were enslaved, voices of freedom were silenced, and fear replaced hope. But rebellion began to stir. Small groups, scattered across different systems, resisted the tyranny. They had little power compared to the might of the Empire, but their spirit could not be broken. Among them were figures like Bail Organa and Mon Mothma, who quietly built the foundations of what would become the Rebel Alliance. And so the stage was set. While Darth Vader hunted survivors of the Jedi Purge, a boy grew up on a desert planet, dreaming of adventure among the stars. Luke Skywalker knew nothing of his true destiny. He believed himself to be just a farm boy, staring at the twin suns of Tatooine, longing for a life beyond moisture farms and dusty horizons. But the Force had not forgotten him. It watched, it waited, and it guided events quietly toward him. The son of the fallen Jedi and the heir of the prophecy was alive, and his path would soon cross with fate. In exile there was silence, in silence there was hope, and in that hope, the galaxy found its only chance for redemption. Part 5. The farm boy who dreamed of stars on the remote desert world of Tatooine, life was harsh and unforgiving. The sun scorched the land, moisture farms struggled against the arid heat, and dangers lurked in the form of Tusken raiders and criminal gangs like the Hutts. Yet, in this desolate wasteland, a young boy grew into a man, carrying a destiny he could not yet comprehend. His name was Luke Skywalker. Luke lived with his Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru on their moisture farm. To him, they were simply family, though they carried a secret far greater than he imagined. They knew who he truly was, the son of Anakin Skywalker hidden away from the Empire's grasp. But Luke knew nothing. To him, his father was only a vague figure, someone who had once been a pilot. His days were filled with chores, repairing droids, and harvesting moisture. Yet his heart longed for more. Every evening, Luke would step outside and gaze at the twin suns as they sank into the horizon. He would stand there, lost in thought, dreaming of adventure among the stars. There has to be more than this. More than farms, more than sand, he whispered to himself. His friends left Tatooine to join the Imperial Academy, to fly starships and see the galaxy, while Luke remained trapped by responsibility. His Uncle Owen insisted on keeping him close, fearing the truth that lay in Luke's blood. Luke's life began to change the day two droids entered his world, R2-D2 and C-3PO. Purchased from Wandering Jaws, the droids carried a secret message meant for Obi-Wan Kenobi. At first, Luke thought it was only a malfunction, but when he stumbled across the name Obi-Wan Kenobi, in the droid's memory a strange feeling stirred in him. He remembered hearing of an old hermit called Ben. Could they be the same man? Driven by curiosity, Luke sought out Ben Kenobi, who revealed fragments of the truth. He told Luke of the Jedi, of the Force, and of his father, but he did not yet reveal the full darkness, that his father was no hero, but Darth Vader himself. Instead, Ben handed Luke a lightsaber, the weapon of the Jedi, and said, "Your father wanted you to have this when you were old enough." At that moment, Luke's life began to shift forever. Fate struck harder when stormtroopers, searching for the stolen droids, descended upon the Lars homestead. Luke returned to find his home destroyed, his aunt and uncle murdered. The boy who had dreamed of adventure now stood broken, staring at the ashes of his past. With no family left, no reason to remain, he chose to follow Ben Kenobi into the galaxy, carrying the droids and their secret message. That message belonged to Princess Leia Organa, leader of a growing rebellion. She pleaded for help against the Empire's new weapon, the Death Star, a space station capable of destroying entire planets. With those words, the path of Luke Skywalker was set. He was no longer just a farm boy. He had taken his first step into a larger world, but destiny is never gentle. Every choice Luke made pulled him closer to a truth that would shatter his very soul. The farm boy who dreamed of stars was about to discover the cost of becoming a hero. Part 6. The first confrontation. The galaxy had already begun to tremble at the name of Darth Vader. And yet, Luke Skywalker had only just taken his first steps into the wider universe. Guided by Obi-Wan Kenobi, accompanied by the smug but courageous pilot Han Solo, his co-pilot Chewbacca, and the droids R2-D2 and C-3PO, Luke set off toward a destiny he did not yet understand. The mission was desperate. Princess Leia, captured by the Empire, had hidden the Death Star's plans inside R2-D2. These plans held the only chance of destroying the Empire's ultimate weapon. Luke, carrying the burden of her plea, found himself swept into battle. He was no longer watching twin suns set on Tatooine, he was staring at the stars of war. When the group infiltrated the Death Star, danger lurked at every corner. Blaster fire echoed through its endless corridors, stormtroopers marched like machines of fear, and deep within its metallic heart, the presence of Darth Vader loomed. Luke had never seen Vader before, but he could feel it, the chill of the dark side, like a shadow pressing against the very air he breathed. And then it happened. For the first time in decades, Obi-Wan Kenobi came face to face with his fallen student. The duel between master and apprentice unfolded in silence and firelight. The hum of lightsabers filled the hangar, and Luke, watching from a distance, felt his world shatter. He had believed Vader to be nothing more than a villain, a monster wrapped in armor. But the way Obi-Wan looked at him, there was sorrow, not just hatred. The clash was not about victory. Obi-Wan knew his time had passed. His purpose was no longer to fight, but to protect Luke. And so, in a single moment, he made his choice. Lowering his blade, he allowed Vader's strike to fall. Luke screamed, "New?" as his mentor vanished, becoming one with the Force. Obi-Wan's sacrifice gave Luke and his companions the chance to escape, but it left a scar on Luke's heart. He had lost the only guide he had, and yet Obi-Wan's voice whispered still, "Run, Luke, run." It was the first time Luke felt the Force truly moving through him, a presence beyond death. Obi-Wan was gone, yet not gone. This was Luke's first confrontation, not blade against blade, but soul against reality. He had seen the Dark Lord who once was Anakin Skywalker. He had felt the despair of loss, and in that despair, a fire began to grow inside him. He swore that he would carry on Obi-Wan's mission, that he would stand against the Empire, no matter the cost. But Vader had also seen something in Luke. In that moment, he did not know the truth, but he sensed a strange power in the boy. The Force surrounded him, strong and untamed. Vader did not yet know it, but his destiny had already crossed with that of his son. The farm boy and the Dark Lord had taken their first steps onto a path that would forever change the galaxy. Part 7. The Revelation of Truth, the Rebellion's Victory at Yavin, where Luke destroyed the Death Star with a single, perfectly timed shot, transformed the farm boy into a hero of the galaxy. Songs were sung in his name, pilots raised their glasses to his courage. And for the first time, Luke felt that he belonged to something greater than himself. Yet beneath the triumph, the shadows of destiny grew darker. Luke sought guidance in the Force, but Obi-Wan was gone, existing now only as a voice that echoed in moments of silence. "You must go to the Dagobah system." There, you will learn from Yoda, the Jedi Master who instructed me, greater than the voice urged. So Luke traveled to a swamp world shrouded in mist and mystery where he met Master Yoda, small in size but vast in wisdom. Yoda pushed Luke into the deepest trials of his spirit. The training was grueling. Luke learned to lift stones with the Force, to balance his body and mind, and to confront visions that haunted him. In one terrifying moment, within a dark cave strong with the dark side, Luke faced a vision of Darth Vader. He struck it down with his blade, but when the mask shattered, he saw his own face beneath it. "What does this mean?" he cried, shaken to the core. Yoda's words were chilling. "If you choose the path of fear, anger, and hate, you will become what you face." But destiny did not allow Luke the patience of full training. Far away, his friends Han Solo, Leia, and Chewbacca were in peril. Drawn into a trap set by the Empire, they suffered at the hands of Vader in the floating city of Bespin. Despite Yoda's warnings, Luke rushed to their rescue. "If you honor what they fight for, yes. But if you leave now, you will destroy all they have fought for," greater than Yoda cautioned. Still, Luke's heart overpowered his wisdom. He left Dagobah before his training was complete. It was there, in Cloud City, that Luke's destiny finally caught up with him. Confronting Darth Vader in a duel, Luke fought with courage but lacked mastery. Vader, calm and relentless, struck at him with precision and power. The clash was not only physical, it was a battle of wills. Every strike of Vader's saber was meant to break him, to prove that the boy was unprepared. In the end, Vader disarmed him, literally. With a swift strike, Luke's hand was severed, his lightsaber falling into the abyss. Broken, bleeding, and cornered, Luke faced not only defeat but a truth that shattered his very soul. Vader lowered his blade and spoke the words that would echo forever in Luke's mind. "No, I am your father." The galaxy itself seemed to stop. Luke screamed in disbelief. "That's not true, that's impossible." But the Force told him otherwise. The monster who had murdered his mentor, hunted the Jedi, enslaved the galaxy was his own blood. He was the son of Darth Vader. Desperate and shattered, Luke chose death over the dark side, throwing himself into the abyss rather than accept Vader's offer to rule the galaxy together. He felt broken but was rescued by his friends. Yet nothing was the same. He was no longer just a farm boy, no longer just a rebel hero. He was the child of Anakin Skywalker, the heir to both light and darkness. The truth was out, and it burned in him like fire. Could he resist the pull of his father's legacy, or was he doomed to repeat it? The real war had only just begun, not for the galaxy, but for Luke's very soul. Part 8. The final duel, the revelation of Darth Vader's true identity haunted Luke Skywalker. He was no longer only the hero of the rebellion, he was the son of the galaxy's greatest monster. His hand was gone, his spirit wounded, and his heart torn between truth and denial. Every night he heard Vader's voice echoing in his mind. "Join me, and together we can rule the galaxy as father and son." But Luke was not the boy from Tatooine anymore. He had grown wiser, calmer, and more determined. He returned to Dagobah to complete his training under Yoda, only to find his master on his deathbed. Yoda, frail but unbroken, gave him two final truths. First, you must confront Vader. Only then will you be a Jedi. Second, there is another Skywalker, and with that, Yoda faded into the Force, leaving Luke with a final riddle. Leia was not only his friend, but his sister. The burden on his shoulders doubled. Now Luke knew his destiny. He could not escape it, nor could he hide from it. The galaxy's fate was tied to his bloodline. While the rebellion prepared for its greatest battle against the Empire on the forest moon of Endor, Luke carried within him a heavier war, the battle to save his father's soul. Captured willingly, Luke was brought before Darth Vader. For the first time since Bespin, father and son stood face to face, not as strangers but as family who knew the truth. Luke tried to reach him. "There is still good in you." "I can feel it," he pleaded. But Vader's voice, cold and mechanical, replied, "It is too late for me, son. The Emperor will show you the true nature of the Force." Brought before Emperor Palpatine, Luke was tested in ways that shook his soul. The Emperor taunted him, manipulating his anger, forcing him to watch as the rebel fleet fell into a trap, as his friends were slaughtered. "Strike me down with all of your hatred, and your journey toward the dark side will be complete?" Palpatine hissed, his words sharp as blades. At first, Luke resisted. He kept his calm, remembering Yoda's teachings. But when Vader threatened Leia, his sister, something inside Luke snapped. Rage consumed him. With a scream, he launched at Vader, his strikes filled with fury and desperation. Their duel was unlike the calm clash on Bespin. This was a storm of emotion. Father against son, light against dark, but also mirror against mirror. Luke's blade hammered against Vader's defense, driving him back. In that moment, Luke no longer fought to defend, he fought to destroy. His strikes were wild, powerful, and Vader, weakened by years of pain, began to falter. Finally, in an explosion of rage, Luke disarmed his father, severing his mechanical hand. Vader fell to the ground, helpless, just as Luke stood above him, lightsaber raised. The Emperor laughed. "Good. Good. Kill him and take your father's place at my side?" Luke froze. He looked at his own hands, trembling, and then at Vader's severed hand, wires sparking from the stump. In that moment, Luke saw himself. If he killed Vader, if he gave in to hate, he would become the very thing he swore to fight. His father's path would become his own. With a deep breath, Luke threw his lightsaber aside. "Never. I'll never turn to the dark side. I am a Jedi like my father before me." His words rang through the throne room like a final declaration of hope. But defiance came with a price. Palpatine's face twisted with rage as he unleashed torrents of Force lightning upon Luke. The young Jedi screamed, his body writhing under the storm of dark energy. He cried out, "Father, please?" And for the first time in decades, the man inside the mask, Anakin Skywalker, heard the voice of his son calling not for power, but for help. The final duel was not truly fought with blades. It was fought in the heart of a father, torn between loyalty to his master and love for his son. And in that moment of choice, the galaxy held its breath. Part 9. The redemption of the father. The throne room was filled with screams and lightning. Luke writhed on the floor, his body convulsing under the merciless power of Emperor Palpatine. The smell of burning flesh filled the air. The light from the storm of energy reflected off the black armor of Darth Vader. For years, Vader had stood as the Emperor's loyal enforcer, a servant of the dark side, a weapon of fear. But in that instant, he was not a Sith Lord, he was a father. Luke's cries cut deeper than any lightsaber strike. "Father, please?" he begged, his voice echoing with desperation, with love, with hope. And inside the mask, Anakin Skywalker stirred. For 2 decades, he had buried his humanity, smothered by anger, regret, and pain. He had silenced the voice of the man he once was. But now, that voice roared back to life. He looked at his master, at the twisted face of Palpatine, who laughed as he tried to kill Anakin's son. And he looked at Luke, the boy who had refused to strike him down, the boy who had believed there was still good left inside him. That belief, that spark, was enough to shatter the chains of the dark side. With a cry that was both rage and redemption, Vader rose. His massive frame shook, but he summoned the strength of the Force one last time. He seized Palpatine in his arms, lightning scorching his armor, burning deep into his flesh. Palpatine shrieked in fury, blasting his apprentice with all the power of the dark side, but Vader did not falter. Step by step, staggering forward, he hurled the Emperor into the abyss of the reactor shaft. The galaxy's greatest tyrant screamed as he fell into endless darkness, consumed by the very energy he had unleashed. The throne room fell silent. The storm was over, the Emperor was dead, and Darth Vader collapsed. Luke rushed to his father's side. The black armor was sparking, the life support systems failing. Vader's breathing, once steady and mechanical, was now weak and broken. With trembling hands he reached for his son. "Luke, help me. Take this mask off." Greater than he whispered. Tears welled in Luke's eyes. "But you'll die," greater than he said. Vader's voice was gentle now, no longer filled with menace. "Nothing can stop that now. Just for once. Let me look on you with my own eyes." Luke hesitated, then carefully removed the helmet. Beneath it was not the face of a monster, but of a scarred, broken man. Pale skin, weary eyes, and the faintest trace of a smile. For the first time in decades, Anakin Skywalker looked at the galaxy not through the cold gaze of a mask, but through the eyes of a father. "Now, go, my son. Leave me," greater than Anakin whispered, but Luke shook his head, holding him tightly. "No, father. I won't leave you. I've got to save you." Anakin's smile grew faint but peaceful. "You already have." And with those words, the Chosen One fulfilled the prophecy. Not as a Sith, not as a Jedi, but as a father who chose love over hate. In his final moments, Anakin Skywalker returned and Darth Vader was gone. Luke watched as the light left his father's eyes. He was no longer the farm boy from Tatooine. He was the last Jedi, carrying both the burden and the legacy of the Skywalker name. The galaxy had been freed, but for Luke, the cost of victory was heavy. He had gained hope for the galaxy, and lost the only father he had ever known. Part 10. The legacy that shaped the galaxy. The Death Star shook with fire and destruction. Explosions ripped through its core, alarms screamed across the massive superweapon, and in the chaos, Luke Skywalker struggled to carry the lifeless weight of his father. His steps were heavy, not from the danger surrounding him, but from the sorrow pressing into his soul. Just minutes ago, Darth Vader had been the symbol of darkness, feared by billions. Now in Luke's arms, he was no longer a Sith Lord. He was Anakin Skywalker, redeemed, at peace and gone. The hangar doors opened and Luke dragged his father's body to a shuttle. He glanced back at the collapsing throne of the Emperor, the shattered ruins of a reign of terror, and he realized the truth. This war had never been only about rebels and empires, about fleets and weapons. It was about a family, about a father and a son, about choices made, lost, and redeemed. As Luke's shuttle soared into the void, the Death Star erupted in a blinding wave of fire. The tyrannical weapon that had once destroyed entire worlds was gone forever, consumed by the flames of its own corruption. Across the galaxy, people cheered. Planets enslaved under Imperial rule celebrated as chains were broken. The Emperor was dead. Darth Vader was no more. The Empire was crumbling. And in that moment, hope burned brighter than ever. Yet for Luke, the victory was bittersweet. On the forest moon of Enda, the rebels danced in triumph, fires glowing under the starlit sky. The Uak sang, Han and Leia embraced, and the galaxy felt the first taste of freedom in decades. But Luke stepped away from the celebration, carrying a pyre of wood to a quiet clearing. Upon it lay the armored body of his father. The black mask that once struck fear into the galaxy was now still, silent, and powerless. As the flames consumed Darth Vader's armor, Luke stood solemnly, the firelight reflecting in his eyes. He was not watching a monster burn. He was honoring a man. He was saying farewell to Anakin Skywalker, the father who had fallen, and the father who had risen again in his final hour. The fire carried the darkness away, leaving only the light. In that sacred silence, the Force stirred. Luke felt it around him, within him. And then, like a whisper in the wind, he saw them, the spirits of the Jedi Obi-Wan Kenobi, wise and kind. Master Yoda, ancient and eternal. And beside them, Anakin Skywalker, no longer broken, no longer enslaved by the dark side, but whole, pure, and smiling. His eyes shone with love and pride as he looked at his son. Luke's heart swelled, for in that vision he knew the truth. The prophecy had been fulfilled. The Chosen One had brought balance to the Force, not through domination, not through destruction, but through sacrifice. The story of Luke and Vader was more than a battle between Jedi and Sith. It was the story of choice, of destiny, of a son's faith in his father, and of a father's redemption through love. It reminded the galaxy and us all that even in the darkest of times, there is always a path back to the light. And so, from the ashes of tyranny, a new hope emerged. Luke Skywalker, the last Jedi, would carry the lessons of his father into the future. The galaxy was free, but the legacy of Anakin and Luke Skywalker would forever echo through history. A story of tragedy, struggle, and redemption that defined what it truly meant to be a hero. Because in the end, the greatest victory was not the fall of an empire, but the rise of compassion, the triumph of love, and the redemption of a soul that had been lost for so long. The story of Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader shows us that even the darkest soul can find light again. But this is only one legend among many in the Star Wars universe. Tell us in the comments whose story should we uncover next? Which hero or villain deserves the spotlight in our next documentary? Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more epic journeys, and may the Force be with you.